Hey, we're from Forgotten Times Outdoor Gear, and today we're gonna tan a rabbit, right? Yeah. We're gonna take those furry little rodents and skin them. They make wonderful meat pies, right? Yeah. But we can also use their pelts. We can turn a raw rabbit pelt into tan piece we can use for what? Gloves, hats, pillows, mittens, and we're gonna go through all the different steps, and at the end you'll be able to have your very own, learn how to make your very own rabbit pelt. So we are gonna talk about the kit that we sell from TruBond tanning products. If you buy our kit, you get Luber Stretch, TruBond 1000, 2 different degreasers, and citric acid and baking soda. That's what you get in the kit to tan the rabbit, or to tan any animal. Maisie, we can tan all sorts of animals, can't we?
Yes.
Like what?
Beaver, coyote, fox, rabbit,
Sheep, bear,
deer, muskrat, beaver.
Yeah, anything with hair on, this kind of kit you can use. So, me and Maisie are gonna go through all the different steps that we use to tan a rabbit. So before we can tan an animal, we have to have an animal to tan. So what do we have here, Maisie?
A white rabbit.
White rabbit. So this rabbit is raw, as in it was butchered and nothing has been done to it. So the very first step is your skin preparation. You need to make sure that when you hunt or trap or harvest an animal from your farm, the very first thing you do is quickly skin it as soon as possible. If you don't, and you let that warm body, if you don't, you let the skin stay on the body, it will start to decompose and the hair will fall out. That's called slipping. It's very frustrating to have an animal that you put a lot of work into and the hair is falling out. The very first thing, you want to skin the animal and put it and cool it down as fast as possible. So when I skin my rabbits, I roll it up, put it in a bag, and put it in the freezer. Then, when I'm ready to tan, I take it out a few hours earlier, and it will thaw out. Then you're working with a nice cold skin, and there's no danger of it decomposing. So, whatever first step, that's the very first step, skin preparation. Second step, number 2, is
Skinning.
fleshing. Fleshing. So we've got a rabbit hide here. And as you can see, when we skin it out, there's a lot of stuff still left on it.
Yeah.
Right? What's this?
Meat.
There's meat, and there's fat, and there's sinew, and depending on what or what animal you have, there will be sometimes more or less. Rabbits are not too bad. So the first step we want to do is we want to get rid of all these extra stuff. Right?
Yeah.
This is fat. Can you be my helper? Can you hold it out here? You hold it out. You want to cut it? You cut it up. So you're going to cut just the membrane. Yeah, soft. Most of the time you can just pull it off. So you're going to work at that for a bit. You're going to get rid of all the extra bits. I'll start over here. Wait, here's some here. Good job, Maisie. Is this the fun part? Is this the messy part? Sure is. Now, with a rabbit, it's kind of easy to get most of it off. You don't have to get all of it. You won't get all of it. That's okay. It will come off in the steps ahead. So, pull at it. You can use a knife. Can you use that knife for a second? It's good. It's very sharp. We don't want to make a hole in the hide. You can go like this, very carefully. You can cut these parts away. I'm not cutting into the hide or you make a hole. I'm cutting along the side of it. Get that. You can pull it off. Try to get all the extra bits. It's a nice big chunk. Is it yummy? Do you like eating rabbits? Now, if you could make something with a rabbit, what would you make? Would you make hats? Mitts? What would you make?
Hats or mitts or nothing?
What would you make? If you could
I would
pick
make gloves.
gloves?
Yes.
Face worn gloves? That would be a good idea.
Instead of a hat, right? We don't really use hats that much.
I use a hat.
Well, I know.
I'm wearing a hat right now.
I don't really use hats.
What kind of hat am I wearing?
I do.
Right. Raccoon makes really nice hats, don't they?
Yep.
So I'm just pulling off this layer, and you can usually see that there's layers on an animal. There's like this layer of skin, then there's like a layer of meat. Sometimes you can just pull it up right off. Now, each animal is different. Beavers or raccoons, they have a lot of fat on them. So you have to really slice off the fat. I'm just working the knife. Just take your time. You don't want to make holes in your pelt. Rabbits make good too. Rabbits make good monsters. For retrieving. Also, this can come out in the next step, so not too worried. Right, so one more here. All right, that's good enough. So we've got fluffy rabbit. Arms. Alright, so that's the first step, or the second step. The second step is fleshing. Now our fleshing is done. So, the salt you want to use is a non-iodized salt, so if you can find it. Sometimes it's hard to find. You can just use table salt as well, and it will work. Use a fine salt, not a coarse salt. It won't, a coarse salt just won't work very well. Let's do a little scoop. We're gonna put it, sprinkle it onto the rabbit.
Yes.
Yeah. So can you sprinkle it on? A little bit more. So we're gonna apply it liberally, so quite a lot. What we're gonna do is we're gonna rub it in. Don't just sprinkle and be done. You wanna really rub it into the flesh side of the rabbit. Don't have to do it into the fur. It's not going to hurt it though. You want to get every little bit salted. So what we do with the salt is we cover a whole layer of it. Get a little more, okay? And then we're going to let it sit. If we let it sit for about half an hour or an hour, it's going to draw the liquid, the water in the skin is going to draw it out. See, it's going to start to make little puddles on itself. After we let it sit for about an hour, we're going to hang it up to dry. And at that point, you can let it dry, and it'll dry stiff and hard as a board. You can let it, if you keep it in a cool place, you can let it be there for months. That's fine. So if you can't get around to it right away, the rest of the steps, that's fine. As long as right away you salt it and let it hang to dry. Alright, so it's been about an hour and the salt has soaked into the rabbit hide and drawn moisture out. If you look, it's very wet and drippy. I had done another one as well, that's why there's two. And we're gonna let these dry out in a place where it's not too hot, but it's like a fan or ventilation, and let them drip dry, and they can either dry for overnight or you can let them dry up to like a week or 2 or 3. They'll get harder and harder as they dry. Then we'll move on to the next step. Welcome to the tanning salon. We're going to continue our lesson on how to tan a rabbit. So this is my tanning shed, and we already worked on our rabbits a couple days ago. We prepared the skin, we fleshed it, and we salted it, and we hung it up to dry. And this is our rabbit that we worked on together. It's quite stiff and hard now. And they have become quite dried out and almost like a little board. So the next step we're going to do is step number 4, and we're going to rehydrate the rabbit in order to move on to the next tanning steps. So for this step, what we need is a bucket of water. So I have a bucket of here, and we're going to measure out water by gallons. So I have a gallon measured out here. I only need as much water so that it can cover the skin of whatever animal you're doing, so you can move around freely in there. So this is 1 gallon of water, and it's warm water from the tap. And we're going to put things from our kit in the water and then add our rabbit to the water. So the first thing we need to add to our 1 gallon of water is Liposol 55. And this is a degreaser, and it helps take any of the grease out of the skin. If there's too much grease in the skin, the tan in the later steps won't absorb into the skin and it won't work properly. So we're going to be doing our measurements based, if it's a liquid measurement, we're going to be using tablespoons. And if it's a dry measurement, as in salt, we're going to be weighing it with our kitchen scale. I find that's the easiest way to do it. So what we need for 1 gallon of water is 1 ounce of Liposol 55. That's also 2 tablespoons. So you could weigh it, or you can just use tablespoons. So I'm gonna open this, and we're gonna measure out 2 tablespoons and add it to our gallon of water. So if you have 2 gallons of water, you need 4 tablespoons, and so on. 1, 2. So as you see, you don't use the whole thing up to do 1 rabbit. You have a lot left over for other things. Next, we need to do salt. We need a 1/4 pound of salt. It's also the same as 4 ounces or 113 grams. So I'm going to zero my scale here. And I'm going to do 1/4 pound. There we go. I'm going to add that to my bucket and stir. Now I usually do large buckets because I'm doing many animals at one time, so I might do 10 gallons at a time. But for this kit process, we're gonna just do 1 gallon. So I'm gonna stir until all the salt is dissolved. You can usually feel it. You can use your hands too. It's not gonna hurt you. All of TruBond's products are like biodegradable and non-toxic, so you don't have to wear special masks, which is why I like it. Alright, so it's all foamy because there's a degreaser in there. We're going to add our rabbit skin to it, and we want to be gentle with these because they can be brittle at this point, especially if you have a really thin-skinned animal. So we're going to stick it in, and I'll do a couple of them at this this point. So there's your, so we're gonna put it in, and we're gonna put it in the degreaser, and we're gonna leave it there for anywhere from half an hour to an hour to 6 hours. Depends on what animal you're rehydrating and how long it's gonna take. So we're just gonna leave it in there just long enough for it to go, no longer be stiff. It's gonna be soft and supple and totally rehydrated. So we're just gonna leave it and let it soak in there, and every 15 minutes, 10 minutes, just come and stir it around again and making sure all the areas of the hide get covered. So that is step number 4. So while we're waiting for that to rehydrate, we can move on and make our pickle. So the pickle is the next step in the process, and it is an acidic and salt bath, essentially, that the hide goes into, and you'll leave it in there for 72 hours and on. So I'm gonna put this to the side. I'm gonna get another. We're gonna do just 1 gallon warm water, and we're gonna measure out what we need for our pickle. So in our kit, we have things we need for the pickle are citric acid, Liposol 77, which is another degreaser that goes into the pickle, and salt again. So for this, for 1 gallon, we need 1 pound of salt. So I'm gonna measure that with my scale again. 1 pound of salt. So if you have 10 gallons, it's 10 pounds. Right there. All right, so that is 1 pound of salt. Goes in there. And citric acid is 3 ounces per gallon, or you can do 1/3 of a cup heaping. Okay, I'm going to measure it because it's a dry ingredient. I'm going to measure it by weight. So 3 ounces. Now, citric acid is a natural acid, and it's found from fruits, and so it also it cuts bacteria. It keeps bacteria from growing, and I just like it because it's not toxic or anything. So that's 3 ounces in our pickle bath. We're also going to add 1 ounce again of this Liposol 77 this time. So that's 2 tablespoons or 1 ounce. 2 tablespoons, 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. We're going to stir that really well as well. Alright, so that's we're just going to be waiting now for our rehydration to be done. And we're going to give it a stir, and then we're going to go back and wait. But look how dark the water is getting already. It cleans the skins. If you have a dirty animal, it helps clean the hair of the animal, but it also, the water will be very dirty by the end. So it's a good rinse, it's a good, yeah, it pulls out the blood and gross stuff. So it's still crunchy and hard, you can tell. So we're gonna let it sit we'll come back and see about in half an hour. So it's been about an hour, and the rabbit skins have been in the rehydration bath, and they are ready to go into the pickle. If we look at the rabbit skins, they are very soft and they're no longer stiff like a board. Very soft and supple. So we're gonna just squeeze the water out. You can drain it if you want. Look at that water. That's a delicious soup. All that blood and salt. So it's very soft. That's what you want. You can see a little bit of meat still on here, and that is totally okay. We're gonna bring it out of the pickle later on and remove all that last little bit of meat and membrane and connective tissues. So this is gonna come out of the rehydration bath into our pickle that we made earlier. Here's our other one. Trying to get the water out of it. Right. So this as well, you can see there's still some meat left on it, which is all right. And it's gonna go into this pickle bath. Now these rabbits will stay in this pickle bath for at least 72 hours. I'm gonna stick a lid on the top so it doesn't, the water doesn't evaporate. And we're gonna stir it 2 to 3 times a day. And it's going to start pickling. As long as your pH of your pickle stays at 1.5 to 2.5, the skins are safe in there. They won't decompose. The skin won't fall out. It's a safe place to leave your skins. So you can leave them in there for a week. But after 72 hours, we'll come back and do our next step.